Welcome to Walking with Jesus Bible Study. We're going to be in the book of Genesis, chapter 8, verse 22. While the earth remaineth seedtime and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. I repeat that. While the earth remaineth seedtime and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. This is God speaking. God is saying these words. God is also telling us that He promised that as the earth is going about, as long as I guess the earth shall live, there will always be a season. And why is these seasons hopeful to us? Because these seasons that He is speaking of here is very crucial and critical to let us know a time to plant and a time to harvest, so that we are able to feed ourselves, to take care of ourselves. If you notice that during certain times and certain different times of the years, actually, you are to plant certain different things that they grow just in just those seasons only. And even though God has us to know and can tell and have us to be able to determine which it is time, which a season it is for here, for these plantings of plants, winter, summer, fall, we are to know these seasons. These are the seasons that God speaks of that we are to know. He's given us these seasons to help and to guide us. Now, as far as the godly seasons, these are earthly seasons. These are the seasons that God has given us to be able to determine for ourselves as knowledge and wisdom to help us and to guide us. Now, as far as godly seasons, the scriptures tells us that those seasons and those times is not for us to know. It clearly says that in the scriptures. For those times and those seasons is not for you to know. That in fact, that when people go to seek mediums and use tarot cards to tell the times and the seasons of when am I going to come out of this trial and tribulation, when I'm going to come out of this, things are going kind of bad. It says that we're not to seek those times. That is not for us to know. That in fact, using the teller of times and the teller of those seasons is an abomination. Just as it says that our ways is not God's ways. Our thoughts is not God's thoughts. His seasons is not our seasons. That His days is not our days. For one day shall equal 1,000, and 1,000 shall equal one. Those are godly times and days, not ours. For if we was meant to live in God's days and times, then that's where we would be, but we're not there. We're here on this earth, in this realm. And the only time He gave us to know the times and of the seasons is the earthly season and the earthly times. It is not our business to know His seasons. But why does everybody speak of such things? Oh, for in this season, God has me do this. God has me to do that. In this season, God gave me a word to tell you that this season you're going to come out of it. Don't you know that that is the devil? It tells you in the scriptures that those who is speaking of the times and of the seasoning is of abomination, that we're not supposed to listen, we're not supposed to hearken, and we're not supposed to use those peoples to determine the seasons and the times. For it is not for us to know. Why? Besides the fact that being an abomination, it is also saying that because we are seeking this knowledge, that now we have this knowledge Instead of trusting and depending on God, now we're taking things into our own hands. We are not God. There's things that we need to learn, that we need to go through, and that's why he has us go through these seasons and goes through these times and goes through these trials and tribulations. And when we begin to seek and have people tell us, oh, you're going to do this, that is us trying to do things on our own. And that goes against the scriptures. For God says that you are to seek him through every single thing. We are to rely on him, and we are to know and to understand that we can do nothing without God. So we need to depend solely on him. And that is what the whole Bible is telling us. That we need God, that we can do nothing without him. So to take things upon ourselves and to know these things, which God says that is not due for us to know, so that we can think that we have conquered these things on our own. So when you seek these things, they tell you, oh, and this season God's going to have you come out. Ooh, I know this now. Look at this. I've done completed what God has got me through. Look at what I have done. I have made it. You didn't do nothing. God did it all. So the moment you start thinking and start realizing, because of these things and these posts and these people telling you and these preachers and pastors telling you what season you are in and how you're going to overcome it, means you didn't rely on God. You relied on those people and those words and their understanding and their knowledge, and not God's. So therefore, you're no longer paying attention to what God has coming for you, what he is teaching you. Because now you done took yourself up out of that situation and put yourself into something else that somebody told you was in. You are no longer learning what God has for you to learn. It is the devil. It is the lie himself. In fact, most people who is teaching and preaching these things of these seasons go right along hand in hand with the prosperity gospels. And why does the enemy have people doing these things? Because when the due time comes, and when they keep on telling you, now you're in this season and you're about to harvest, let me explain something to you. The scriptures say that only God is the harvester, that the angels will come and harvest. We are not to harvest anything. We are the laborers. So teaching and preaching this, you're about to come into a season where you're about to harvest and reap everything that you have sown. That's why it is a lie from the pit of hell, because we do not harvest a darn thing in here. We don't. I'm sorry, but that is the truth of it. The scriptures tell you that. The only one who's going to harvest anything is God and his angels. We are the laborers. All we are to do is to plant the seeds. That the only time that we would get anything is when we have died and gone to heaven, and we will get our reward then. We don't harvest nothing. And see, it is the enemy having us believe these things. And so when these things do not come to pass, because they are false prophets, false teachers. And that's why those things do not come to pass. So these people who are listening to these saying, oh, this is my seed when I'm about to harvest. And when they don't harvest anything, they're heartbroken. The joy turns into hate. And they turn from God. And that is the whole goal, the whole purpose of the enemy having these false peoples, these prophets and teachers that is teaching you and speaking these nonsense to you so that you return and fall away. And that is why so many people right now, because of these prosperity gospels and because of these season posts of telling you what season you are in and that you have accomplished this and you have gone through that and God is going to take you here and there. And when those things have not happened because they are not from the word of God, they are not from God's mouth, it's from the enemy, they turn from God instead of turning to God. and being in what God has them